My name is Bill Tibbetts, and I'm with Crossroads Urban Center, and we have sent 5 questions to every candidate in Salt Lake City for mayor and city council about housing and homelessness. And today, I am asking those questions to Ana Valdemoros, who is the incumbent in District 4 and is running for re-election.
Yep, that's me. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for for having me here and having to answer those questions that are really exciting for me.
Okay. Our first question is about housing for people with disabling conditions who've been homeless for at least 12 months or 4 times in the last 3 years. Do you support the production of sufficient permanent supportive housing to meet the needs of people with physical and mental disabilities in Salt Lake City?
Yes, it's an absolute yes. There's no question about it. We've had a lot of different groups that do that kind of work in Salt Lake City in District 4. Some are more successful than others, but we want to see them all succeed, and we want to see more of that kind of almost, I'm not going to say low barrier, but it's one of those first steps for people that suffer mental illness or otherwise, to be literally handheld through the process of them staying in a place where they can be in peace, a dignified way of living, and also the help that they need with their issues. So for sure, it's something that I'm supportive. It's something that I'm supportive in terms of the city. That's something that we need to do for those neighbors that do not have the same abilities than others. But also, I'm supportive that the state also looks at that in the different counties and the different cities to have those those services or those type of housing in their own municipalities to help their own neighbors as well.
Okay. Our second question is about families with children who have also with parents with disabling conditions. So there are families who need more support than the shelter can provide, who've been staying in the shelter for up to 2 years. And so the second question is, would you commit to actively support efforts to build 200 units of child-centered supportive housing in Salt Lake County during the next 5 years to fully meet the current need?
Yes. Another absolute yes. Those are easy yeses because we know the need is there. We can see it. I can see it in my district. And we started changing the mindset a little bit as RDA chair that I was for 2 years, and with the rest of my peers, including the current mayor, about let's change the way we do or we help finance development, housing units, affordable housing units, and deeply affordable housing units, where we've invested a lot in the last at least 5 years that I've been in the council, into the studio and the 1-bedroom apartments that you see all around Salt Lake City. And we switched that. We said, okay, that's good. That's really good that we are able to participate in those projects. But now we also need to invest in the family-size housing, and also affordable home ownership, also for those lower-income residents that might not be loaned money from traditional ways like a bank. Something that we can do as a city, but changing the mindset to family-size housing, affordable family-size housing, basically tells developers or people that are doing housing that they will be given priority from now on. So if you need Salt Lake City taxpayers' money investment for housing, then bring us projects that will have enough units, 3 or more, for families, so that they can be there. And so perhaps that's a way of telling the world or telling everybody, hey, this is a shift here, and we are supporting that kind of housing. So if somebody says, hey, we'll have a 200 unit project for this type of housing, absolutely, we already have designated the funds for that, so bring it over. We'll definitely take a look, and you're top of the list for us.
Good. Do you support the creation of tenant relocation assistance program in Salt Lake City for people who have been displaced by a development that eliminated affordable housing?
100%. Bill, these are it's easy questions. 100%. We do that in different ways, but one of the things that developers will tell you and community councils will tell you when anybody that comes to Salt Lake City and asks me as a council member, hey, we have this project, we need a rezone, we want you to see, the properties that we bought that, we're going to, demolish because we want to put these other units. The first thing I say is, one, have you talked to the community councils and have you seen the master plan of the things that they want to see? But two, unless you help me with the relocation or with in the meanwhile until you've got your project done, but then you also provide the same amount of units that you are reducing right now, that you're basically displacing people, so I want those people back in your project. It's going to be a tough one for me to say yes. So I am working on that end in terms when people need this type of rezones in my district. But also for sure, we've used a lot of funding for assistance, with rental assistance and relocation, and I'm happy to do more as we keep moving forward, for sure. It's something that is needed, and we'll continue to advocate for that.
Okay. You actually got a little bit into the fourth question, okay, which is about, what response, how the city can challenge developers to replace existing affordable housing if it's destroyed by development. So, do you support the creation of a community benefit policy to prevent the loss of existing affordable housing units in Salt Lake City?
Yes, absolutely. I know we've been pushing the administration to get our housing mitigation plan back in place. I know we worked on the Thriving in Place strategies to prevent displacement, but something that I'm super proud of, especially this last budget year, is that I was able to get two ideas passed with funding that were, one, it's called the Naturally Occurring Affordable Housing Financing, Finance Help, where we've allocated about $1.2 million to help those property owners that might be in a pinch, or they might be in they might be retired and they have that small income. They might have homes that are a little bit older, and some of them do rent them out at a lower price point. And that is what we call the naturally occurring affordable housing. And so we are hoping that with this $1.2 million, we can incentivize those property owners to fix their property, whether it be a roof replacement or HVAC or something that is significant to that home, to keep that home alive or extend the lifetime for another 10, 15 years in exchange of keeping those rents at that price point for the length of that loan. And that loan will be 0% loan. That loan will be dedicated for lower income neighbors that might not be able to afford, to pay a lot of interest through a traditional loan. And so that's how we are going to help with the anti-displacement. We want people to stay here, and on top of having keep the neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood, intact for a little bit longer, and also to discourage people from selling when developers come over and say, here's a really good check for you, would you sell me this this house? Another caveat with that program will be that the city will get the first right of refusal if they need to sell that home, because we are also working on a community land trust where the city will own the properties, and we will sell to lower income families and work out the equity deals and all of the things, but keep it at an affordable price, because it's very hard to buy a home in Salt Lake City. Another thing that we did was the ADU financing program as well. It's the accessory dwelling unit. So it works in a similar way. The biggest barrier to build more ADUs, which is another unit in a piece of property, perhaps in the back, or maybe it's attached, but was to, the biggest barrier is to connect to the sewage line and the water line. and that's very expensive. So a lot of people are discouraged from building those. So we said, okay, that is probably the biggest issue that we have with ADUs, other than the other things that we've talked about, homeownership, the property, the property owner living there, or if it's for rental or if it's not, or all of the things that the concerns of the neighbors. But that was the biggest hurdle. So hopefully, with another $1.5 million, we'll be able to subsidize those units so that they can be rented, at an affordable rates to bring more people to the neighborhood and give, another option for renters, that cannot rent in newer places, or the rents are just too high for what they're getting. So perhaps an ADU it's more appropriate for a little bit. So.
Okay. The last question that we sent to all of the candidates is about funding. Do you support efforts to increase funding to address homelessness and housing instability?
Yes. And can you repeat that question? I am a yes, but I want to make sure that.
Do you support efforts to increase funding to address homelessness and housing instability?
Yes. Oh, for sure. For sure. We'll continue doing that. We've done about $60 million in the last 5 years. We're doing another $20 million this year. And so with different programs and different ways of doing it. But absolutely, we feel like that's the number one issue in Salt Lake City. I think I ran for office 4 years ago, and truly meaning what I said. I want downtown Salt Lake City or District 4 or the city in general to be a place where people can live and work, and play. And anybody can, provide that for anybody that wants to do that in Salt Lake City. And so absolutely, excited to keep, supporting this, these issues. And, the way the city does it is with, finances, and that's how we're going to do it. And, making sure that we see through that Thriving in Place plan that you mentioned earlier, and I mentioned as well, that we see through the ADU program, the naturally occurring affordable housing, and all of the things that we have, in the works. So I would like to see it through in the next 4 years. So I'm hoping that, I'll get that support from groups like you and others in the constituency, so that we can make a dent in this issue that, that we face.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to think about our questions and respond to them. Crossroads Urban Center is a nonprofit. We don't endorse anyone, but we think it's part of our job to educate the community about where candidates stand about issues like this. So.
Of course. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope that if the clients that you help or anybody else that is watching the video to contact me to talk about it, we can go to my empanada shop, or we can or I can come over and have those conversations if you want to have the one-on-one and hear my thoughts.
And we have a Meet the Candidates barbecue on
Correct.
July 12th,
Yeah.
which
I'll be there. So
okay.
Come over, to that barbecue, and come, say hi and ask me all of the questions.
Okay. If people want to learn more about your campaign, how can they do that?
So you go to www.annaforcouncil.com, and that's my website. There's a lot of information about how you can support, how you can volunteer. There's also a lot of information about what I do other than being a council member, and my background in education and all the things that I've done in these countries. Is I've been here for about 23 years. Yeah. So I'm an immigrant. I'm Ana Valdemoros. I'm an immigrant from Argentina, and I'm excited, and hopefully I can get your support, for the next 4 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.